I just picked up another F-250 from a Manheim Dealer Auction. This is a 2012 Super Cab short bed with 180,000 miles. This one's got the 6.2 gas V8, four-wheel drive. Pretty clean truck overall, but it's got some rust. Went kind of low at the auction due to the rust. The truck was $3,700, $285 buy fee, $50 fee for bidding online, plus about $248 for transport. So just under $4,300 all in on this truck. I test drove this truck a few miles and discovered a couple issues with it. It's got a bad cab mount, it feels like. The AC is blowing warm, and it sounds like it's either got a bad wheel bearing or pretty noisy tires. Aside from that, the motor ran well, the transmission shifted nice, looks like the front calipers are redone. Pretty clean truck overall. What I like about this, it's an XLT model. I usually buy the lower end XL models. So it's got carpet, full-length console, a couple of other options. Aside from the rust down in the cab corners and wheel wells, it's not too bad a shape. It's got the chrome bumpers and grille, the alloy wheels. You can see these tires are not very good, and they're cheap. So frame up here is not too bad. Someone put some money into this truck. These are Lund running boards. It's got the keypad, which is nice. Here's your rusty cab corner. The frame is not horrible. It does have a gooseneck and a spray and bed liner. And this side, it's not horrible. The wheel well. You can see the pinch seam on the bed's bad. Cross rails are still there, which is surprising. This cab corner is not horrible. The inside's pretty nice. I didn't realize how big these center consoles were. You can fit all sorts of stuff in there, and it's got a power point. Came with a set of mats. Not bad for 180,000 miles. Gets the same wear on the steering wheel. These front steering wheels just degrade over time. Got a little paint here, but you can tell an XLT model because it has an upgraded kind of coloring on some of the interior trim. Usually that's just black. It's got the sync system with the MP3 and CD player. Overall pretty good. I'm happy with how the truck runs. The transmission shifts well. Pretty happy with $4 grand. I don't expect this truck to bring much. 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there, because it's a higher spec, but not much due to the rust. Let's get this in the shop and kind of go through it, figure out exactly which cab mount is bad, what's going on with the AC, and see if it's a wheel bearing or if it's just the cheap tires. The first thing I decided to do was check out that cab mount. Now you can tell it's a cab mount because when you're going over a bump or uneven ground, you can hear a knocking. It sounded like it was coming from the back driver's side, but that cab mount looked okay. Down here, you can see that's a bad mount. There's nothing there. There's supposed to be, Ford uses a foam material in there. The body hitting the frame is what that knocking sound is. So to get this bolt undone, you got to heat it with something. Propane is, or MAP gas is usually okay. Put the flame on the bolt because there's Loctite up top. And there's a cage nut up there held in by some thin folded pieces of metal that keeps the nut from spinning when they assemble this. But if you just hit this with an impact without using heat, you're gonna rip out that cage nut. You're gonna pull everything apart to get to the top of it. Now I usually prefer to remove the seat and then heat from the top because it melts the Loctite much quicker and easier. It's more effective. But I'm going to do it from the bottom this time so I don't have to mess with the carpet or anything. And you do not want to use an impact after you heat it. Just do it by hand because you can still strip out that cage nut. When it gets this rusty, it takes a little extra time. I may come in from the top just to make it easier. A lot of times what happens is this whole sleeve, this metal sleeve, this is the replacement part of the replacement. There's a metal sleeve, and this will get rusted all together. The bolt gets rusted in there. And usually you have to take a Sawzall after you get the bolt out and cut it. Don't do that first. You got to get the bolt out, otherwise the end of it's going to be stuck up there in the cage nut. So one thing I've done when it's this hard is I have come from the top. It's a little more effective at releasing the Loctite, but I can also get to the top of the nut with some penetrating fluid and spray down. So I think that's what I'm going to try right now. On these super cabs, you can stick a long screwdriver behind, and there's a couple clips, and this whole back panel pops right out. And then you can either pop this up or remove it, and you can access the bolt. I was trying to avoid that because this is carpet, and I'm worried it will catch on fire easier than the vinyl floor. But I'm going to go ahead and try this method. You're going to want to have a fire extinguisher or a water hose, just to be safe. I bought a truck once. It's a 2008 F-250. I did a video on it, and the whole cab caught on fire because somebody tried changing this out and used a torch to cut into the body because they didn't do this method first, melting the Loctite. And as a result, the cab mount was still bad and the whole interior was burned up, and I got the truck pretty cheap at auction. So just be careful if you're using heat, which you have to do. pieces of rust are hot. Wear safety glasses if you're working on a rusty truck or underneath the truck, period. All this stuff is falling down on me, and it's not quite burning me, but if it was in my eyes, it would hurt. How to move the camera. You need a real pretty long breaker bar to get leverage on this. And between hitting the running board and the camera, I just had to move it. So this bolt is still pretty hot. You can see that Loctite on there. Has to be melted. Now you see this little piece here, that's the lower sort of cup. That's this, the new one. It goes up on the underside of this bracket. Now this gets pretty much rusted in and stuck. It's moving surprisingly freely, but I don't think we're gonna get that out. So you gotta come in here with the Sawzall or something to cut that out, and then lift up the body and pull out the top part. Before I go cutting away, I always try and knock this thing out the easy way, which probably isn't gonna work. It looks like it's coming, which is surprising. I did lubricate the top side. If you open up, since this is a super cab, if you fold up the back seat, you can kind of see it in there. Yeah, it just gets stuck up there. Just not worth messing with it. A couple hits with the hammer. If it works, it works. If not, go straight for the Sawzall, or if you can fit an angle grinder, anything that can cut that. Any metal cutting blade will work on this, but as the most effective ones I found are Diablo. They're a little more expensive than some of the others, but these metal cutting blades, it's a 25 pack I got on Amazon. It's actually pretty cheap. I got a brand new blade on here to make this go as quick as possible. Oh, that's surprising. It actually came out. I didn't even have to cut it. It looks like you can see how wet that is. That's lubricant that I put up from the top side. It looks like that actually helped. That's really surprising. That's the first time that's ever happened on a truck this rusty for me. Now, next step, lift the cab from probably over here with that 2-ton jack and a piece of wood, and then we'll just slide that right out. And be careful about sticking your fingers on the top of that. Some of this old foam has sort of degraded. You can hear all this crap falling down. That's why you need safety glasses. That's all foam coming down. The foam just degrades over time. One thing that I read about but did not encounter until now is some Super Duties, apparently this one, in position 3, which is the back of a super cab, 1, 2, 3 is front to back, they use a smaller mount. So this is what you would usually use. And this is what this one uses. You can see the difference. The oval, you can see this is not circular. It's got flat sides here. The normal mount will not fit in there. So you need to go with the smaller mount. according to the instructions, should say this somewhere. So I got this one greased up, so hopefully if it fails, the next guy doesn't have to fight with it too much. And I've got this new mount in and the bolt torque down. I'll probably go back through and double check the torque once I put a few miles on this. One thing worth mentioning, if you do have a truck that uses this oddball short mount, you got to use the short bolt. Otherwise, it's going to be too long. There's a shoulder on the bolt, and once it goes past the threads, it's just going to run into the shoulder. So you'll be able to tell because the larger size mount will not fit this, the little oval won't fit this. And even if you do try and jam it in there, the body lines won't match up because it'll be too high. You'll be able to see the body line with the bed should sit pretty level. And that's not bad. Otherwise, this would be sitting up like an inch higher. All right, next step is I'm gonna check the front wheel bearings. Got the driver's side jacked up here. You can hear the brake dragging a little bit. You can see that's a new caliper. Sounds like it's hitting the rear backing plate. But it is not the wheel bearing. You can see these tires are in rough shape here. These are Thunder Ranger ATs, so cheap tires. May have to do the caliper guide pins, but this is not the wheel bearing on this side, so let's check the other side. You can hear that disc dragging as well. That could be confused for a wheel bearing, but a wheel bearing is more of a grinding sound. Best way to tell is to pull the wheel off, pull the caliper out, and then spin it and see what it sounds like, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Everything's tight. You can pull this and there's no movement. You grab the wheel by either side and tilt it side to side. You grab the top and the bottom, you pull it up and down. And if there's any movement, then you got some steering issues, or wheel bearing issues, but this is tight. I don't know if this sound's gonna come up on cameras. Doesn't always pick up the correct sound. Picks up weird frequencies sometimes. I do have a set of these wheels off another truck. It's got 2 good tires and 2 bad tires. This way. These are the same wheels and tires. They came off a repo truck. The guy did burnouts before it got repoed, beat the hell out of it. But it has 2 good tires. They're Dextero DHT2s, so cheap. But they're good, and they have a 2022 date. I may put these front ones on and see how it drives. And then I can always get a matching set of Dexteros. I found some on eBay. So let's put these on and take it for a test drive and see what it sounds like. I've got the two cheap Dextero all-season tires mounted on the front. So now I'm going to take it for a test drive and see if it quiets it down. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to look into the wheel bearings. And if it does, then I'm going to go ahead and get on eBay and order 2 more of these I found. I think for the pair it's $100 some. I want to get them used, that way they're as close to the tread depth as possible. Then I'll have to mount them up. You can see these look pretty rough. It's mostly dirt. You can see that'll clean up. It's mostly dirt and brake dust. These are kind of low on pressure. I think they're down in the 30s, so I need to put these up to probably at least 40, 45, I think. But this will be good for testing. I just got back from a test drive, and the front tires completely eliminated the road noise. So it's nice and quiet and smooth going down the road. I'll go ahead and get some back tires ordered, since I don't want to sell, even though this is a cheap truck, I don't want to sell it with mismatched tires. This truck runs very nice, and I'm kind of tempted to keep it. That's why I like doing this, buying and selling trucks. I like working on them, but this is not, I can't keep them all. This would be a great winter truck because it's already got rust. The inside is actually pretty nice too. I'm really enjoying this full-length console. The base models just have the jump seat that flips up, and I can never put one of these in mine because I've got the manual shift transfer case, and this has the auto. You need the auto buttons. The one thing I don't like about this, it does not have an electronic locking rear differential, and I love those. They're very handy. But I do like this XLT trim. You know, you get a few upgrades. I don't know if I call them upgrades. This trim here is painted silver. It's usually just black. You get these chrome rings on the vents. It does have the sync system, so you can plug in your phone, and it's MP3 capable, and I think you can do Bluetooth with this. It also has the buttons on the steering wheel. Even though this thing's worn, they're not expensive. I think you could buy this steering wheel with these buttons already in it for $175. It's got automatic lights, which I'm surprised it didn't have fog lights, being an XLT. It's got a power mirror. The driver's seat's power. Passenger seat is manual. This console here has a plug back there and AC vents, which is nice for your passengers, even though you wouldn't want to have a full-size adult in these back seats. They're not very comfortable. Might be okay for kids for a short drive, but if you wanted to plug in a laptop or something. It's also got a power point down here. Map pockets down here. Pin pocket here. 4 cup holders. I guess you can move them and put stuff in there. A pretty nice truck. I'm sure this was, when it was brand new, very nice truck to have. But checking into this AC, when the AC is on, you can see the pulley's not turning, which means it's out of Freon. So I pumped 2 cans in there, and it's blowing nice and cold. I thought maybe the AC compressor was bad, but these are cheap enough that I wanted to jam it in there and see. But it sounds like a condenser. There's a bit of a fizzling sound, which might mean we have a leak, or maybe it's just the Freon rolling through the system. I don't smell anything, but I can hear something. I don't know if you can hear that or not. So if that's the problem, it may need an AC condenser. I don't think that's something I'm going to do. I think I'll just lower the price of the truck and make sure the buyer knows that that's likely the issue. You know, if it was low on Freon, it went somewhere, so that means there's a leak. I thought this stuff had the dye in it, and you can use a black light, but I don't think this is that. I think these are too cheap for that. That was my fault, but that's what I had, and it was cheap enough to just do that. I decided to go ahead and pick up a used condenser. Found that for 20 bucks on Marketplace. Some guy was parting out these trucks. Looks pretty easy to replace. I don't have to worry about Freon since it all leaked out. But again, this is a cheap rusty truck. Hopefully we'll get a little AC in here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just has to not leak out the condenser. To do this, you gotta pull out the grill, and then I think it's a power steering cooler that's just bolted in. Up here are these little push pins. Just get one of these. Pops out. Then you gotta pull this out. And then in the bottom, there's 2 clips, and this whole grill pops right out. Aside from these push pins, there's a bolt here. Usually that's missing in the trucks that I work on. So I don't know if this is supposed to be there or if somebody just put that in. If it's supposed to be there, it's 10 millimeter. You can see this grill starts to come out, but don't go yanking on it. You got to undo the clips at the very bottom. Otherwise you might break something. I said there were 2 clips, but there's several clips. There's several messed up fins down here, but it looks like there and there it's sort of a wet spot. It's darker anyway. That could be a wet spot from the Freon I put in. That might be where it's leaking. Your high and low lines held in here by a bolt on either side plus a little clip. This is I think a power steering cooler. We'll have to move that out of the way. This whole thing should pop right out. Whenever you open the AC system, you really should be replacing the dryer anytime the atmosphere can get inside. I'm not going to do that because I don't know if this is going to work. Also on these high and low lines, there's O-rings. You should probably replace those as well. When you open the system, there's something called PAG oil in here. That's what lubricates the compressor. It takes a certain type and a certain amount, and most of it stays in the compressor of the lines, but there's bound to be some in the bottom of this condenser. So I'm going to remove this first in hopes of saving some of it because I don't have any more, and I'm not going to go out and buy some just in case this condenser doesn't work. That's the proper way to do it, but this is not the proper way to do it, so. header ring's still pliable. I'm just going to run it. It took about 5 minutes to swap that condenser. The grill has a series of clips at the bottom. These push pins. And one bolt. This is the high pressure port. The low pressure port is over here somewhere. There it is, right there. That's where you fill it up. With the old condenser, you could hear it fizzing out. I don't smell anything either. Aside from all that debris, I think we're good up here. So this whole little fix cost me about 40 bucks. $10 a can for one of these, 2 cans, plus 20 bucks for the used condenser. If it works, great. If not, you know, it's really not worth taking this to a shop or going out and buying professional equipment or a bunch of brand new parts just because of the value of the truck. When you're selling trucks or cars or anything, you want to provide as much value to your customer as possible. And you do that by offering a very nice vehicle that works as much as it should, even though it's, you know, a 15-year-old vehicle. Also, every problem your truck or your car has, the buyer can use that to negotiate down the price. So if you're trying to do this for a living or as a side hustle or whatever, you know, fix as much as you can, but it's got to be a crossroads. This was a small investment. If I took it to a shop, it could have been $1,000 or more, and that is not worth it for a truck like this. Well, I got these new tires on, well, the used tires on all 4 corners. One of the front ones needed a valve stem, it was leaking. This truck's not too dirty. I'm gonna run it through a touchless car wash and clean up the inside. It's not bad in here, but there's dog hair from where I've had the dog in. Then I'm gonna get some photos, and I don't think there's anything else major to do. I'm gonna find some other stuff pop up as I test drive this. But that's the next step. I sold the truck a couple of days ago and got $7,500 for it, and we made a total profit of almost $3 grand, $2,900.58, which I think is pretty good for that vehicle. I bought that truck in August and I sold it November 10th. So I kept that longer than I usually keep trucks. When I first listed it, I put kind of a high price on it because I was thinking of keeping it as a winter vehicle. Since it was rusty, you know, you're not really going to hurt it driving in the salt in the winter. So after putting the new tires on, it drove really nice and smooth. So it was a nice truck to drive with that interior and the AC blasting. My current truck, an F350, drives much rougher than that. It's just the suspension, I guess. And I thought it'd be nice to have a backup for that too, just in case. Eventually I decided, you know, my truck is sort of rusty, just not as rusty, and that's good enough to drive in the winter. So I lowered the price to $7,500, sold within maybe 2 or 3 days. That is a much more realistic price for that truck. As far as expenses go, we didn't have too high of expenses or didn't really have much to do on this truck. The tires were pretty cheap, $125.50 for the 2 shipped, and $90 for a local tire shop. They had to throw out the 2 old tires, mount and balance, and then a valve stem. So that's not too bad. A temporary tag was only 15 bucks for the customer, and I did not collect sales tax because they were out of state, from a state that I do not collect sales tax. The Freon was about 40 bucks, I think it was $5 per can, and I went through 4 of them. Or no, maybe it was $10 per can, and I went through 4 of them. The first 2 were kind of a waste. The second 2, you know, that's all it needed. I thought I might need a third, but the AC stayed cold the entire time. I did not count the cab mount that I replaced because I buy a whole kit and then only use one at a time. So that kind of falls under general shop supplies for the business. That's why I write that off. But these check marks are expenses I put on my credit card, which totaled $509.42, and I got 2% cash back unlimited on my credit card, so it came out to about $10.18, which is not factored into that. I guess you could call it a wash. I pull all this money together at the end of the year, and then I get a check in the mail, and then I put that in my retirement account. So I don't really count the 2%. And also the 2% is irrelevant if you carry a balance. So you got to pay, if you're going to get a 2% card, you got to pay the balance in full. Otherwise the credit card fees are going to wipe that out completely. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this truck. It was real nice. Being an XLT model, I kind of wish it wouldn't have had so much rust, but of course I wouldn't have bought it because it would have been too expensive. But pretty happy with how this turned out. So let's go find something else, probably another F-250, and fix it up and sell it.